everyone. Today Juliet and I are doing another inspired by video. Today we're going to be inspired by Irit Landgraf, who is, I think, Irit Landgraf here on YouTube. She has an awesome style and she uses mixed media techniques a lot. So today I'm pulling out some of my stencils, some modeling paste, heavy gel medium, some clear gesso, and then some scraps of watercolor paper that I have. And I'm just going to do some fun techniques and maybe use some mists and paints as well, just to play around on some of this some of these scrap pieces of watercolor paper that I have, and then I'm going to die cut these and use them on a layout. I've seen her do this before and I love the way it looks, and so that is how I am going to channel my inner Irit today. And so I hope that you'll watch and maybe play along and see how you can also channel her style. I'll be sure to link to her below. So I'm going to go ahead and put you on fast forward now.
Okay, so I'm starting out by just adding a layer of clear gesso to each of these cards, and I'm just using I always forget what this is called. I keep wanting to call it a spatula, but it's really called something else, and I will make sure to link to that. But I'm using this little scraper tool to apply the gesso, and I like the one with the large flat head on it because it's easier for me to scrape it across. You could also use like an old gift card or something like that to do this. I keep my clear gesso in this little, like it's an old hair container, like for hair gel product stuff, because it comes in a squeeze tube, and I would rather dip my little spatula tool in there and get the gesso out. So this is just easier for me. So I'm going to just, like I said, play around with a bunch of different techniques. It really is just play. This is going to get messy and kind of crazy. I pulled out some distress ink, I didn't pull out distress ink. I pulled out distress paint. I should have pulled out distress ink. Distress paint, and I pulled out some Mr. Huey's and heavy gel, medium, modeling paste, all the stuff that I kind of mentioned before. I used this Heidi Swapp stencil to put some of that, I can't remember what it's called, copper or something, distress paint. I'll be sure to link to it. But it looked gross. It just looked nasty. So I'm mixing some with a little bit of heavy gel medium, and I'm going to run it through this Studio Calico dot stencil, and I like the way that it turns out. And I will wipe that off so that it doesn't dry on my stencil. I used a lot of wipes. That's just how I prefer to do it. And I'm going to set that aside to dry. So I'll do things in layers and set things aside to dry while I start on another one. So now I'm taking some modeling paste and using another one of these Heidi Swapp stencils. I had never used these stencils before, so I thought I would use them this time. And I am just using that to do some of these triangles. And I really like the way when since modeling paste stands up a little bit, I like the way that it looks after it dries and you add paint or something to it, because the paint kind of dries and settles right around that raised area, so you get some interesting color contrasts. So next, I think I'm going to pull out some, gelatos, and I'm using my metallic melon, and I just put some at the top, and I'm just using a paintbrush and some really dirty water that I need to change, and just painting that on. I put a lot of water so I could kind of drip it down, and now I am going to, I sprayed some Mr. Huey's on some packaging, and I am just spreading that around on another card. So I'm just getting really messy here. I don't know what I'm doing with this. I think it's antique linen distress paint, and I mixed it with some water, and my water had some pink in it, and so when I smushed it on here, it kind of gave me a peachy color. So this is really a fun thing to do if you just want to play and experiment, because after I do all of this experimentation, I'm going to cut all of this out. And so you just get the little bits. It doesn't matter if each individual piece is a masterpiece because I'm going to cut them out and it looks cool after I do that. So this one I just spritzed on a stencil and then I flipped it over and stamped it onto another card. Now this modeling paste is dry, so I'm just going to take some watercolors. These are just some old Reeves watercolors that I have in my stash. And I am just applying it messy and just playing around, mixing some orange and some pink and some yellow and white, just getting kind of a bunch of different colors. I am kind of trying to get these within a certain color family because I have some chipboard from My Mind's Eye on trend that I want to use some of, and I realized that when I started this. I'm going to use a little bit of this clear gel, heavy gel medium, to make some diagonal stripes on this card. In the end, you really don't see that very much, but it's just clear and it gives it a little bit of dimension, so I thought I'd just try it. Again, just experimenting. So this card I set aside before. I didn't want to completely waste it, so I'm just using some more gelatos and making kind of a greenish aqua color, and I'm just going to paint it all over the whole card, and I'm going to just playing around, rubbing things around, using my paintbrush, moving the paint. What I'm looking for is interesting textures. Like I said, it doesn't matter if it looks like a masterpiece. I grabbed some watercolors and I'm going to add a little bit of that to this card as well. And then I used some a baby wipe to wipe some of it off. Just mixing some different colors, trying to get kind of a darker bluish green. Splatting that just a little bit. And then I realized, I could just splatter some more Mr. Huey's, so I did some of that. Wiping up my mess. This is really fun and relaxing to just play. So now that this heavy gel medium is pretty much dry, I just wanted to play around with it a little bit. So I just spritzed my Mr. Huey's really close to it and then let it drip down, and then I dabbed it off and I dabbed too much off. So I do it again and I'm going to let it dry for a little bit. I'm going to add some more color, doing that same thing, spritzing really close on this card. So that card is pretty much completely that Mr. Huey splash color. I don't believe that they sell that anymore, but I'll link to a similar color. I'm going to add a little bit more dimension to this card. I'm going to put I'm just misting on top of it, and then I'm going to stamp the rest of that onto another card. So I like when you mist on a stencil, the ink pools up on the stencil and then you can flip it over and stamp it onto something else.
Okay, so I've made a huge mess here. I don't know if these will even work, but I'm just playing around and I know some of them look really ugly, but I'm planning to cut them out. So I'm going to use this die from the Maggie Holmes Confetti Collection. It's a floral die and I love this, and I just wanted to really quickly show you how I store my dies. So I just have a piece of adhesive backed magnet paper on here, and then I put my dies on that because they stick to it and they don't slide around, even though I didn't put this one back correctly last time, so it's kind of moving, but and they're in the Avriel pockets, so I'll make sure to link to those things. But I am going to just pull out my Big Shot and die cut some of these pieces out, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so I thought I would slow down and show you what that mess of papers turned into. So you can remember I had these, they were pretty ugly, admittedly, but I was really just going for some texture, and I think they look really cool now that they're cut out, and I can layer them together however I want to get an interesting look. And I really like the way the leaves turned out. They look really cool. This one's maybe my favorite. But I think those will look really pretty. So I'm going to put them on a striped background. I know Irit likes a nice bold stripe, or at least she used to. I'm embarrassed if you're watching this, Irit, but I know you watch my videos, so there we go. Anyway, so I'm going to arrange these on here somehow, and I just think they look really pretty. So even though I actually was worried about how this would turn out, I think it looks really, really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and put you back on fast forward and keep going.
Okay, so I've just arranged these and I'm looking through a big stack of photos to find the one that I'm looking for. I kind of had an idea of what I kind of wanted to do, but I'm going to use a photo from my uncle's funeral for this, and here it is. It's a nice big square photo. I think it's 5 by 5. It's an interesting size, but I'm going to use that here, and the florals just go really nicely with that. And oh my gosh, looking at it now again, I just really love the way those florals turned out. Just looks so pretty. And it's soft, but it has a lot of texture and dimension to it. So you can see how, even though I thought that this was going to come out all crazy, it looks really cool. So I'm sorry that this skipped ahead. I thought my video was recording, but it wasn't. But basically I pulled off a few pieces from that chipboard sheet. I don't think I ever showed it to you, but it's my Mind's Eye on Trend. I'll be sure to link to it in case you want to check it out. And I am just hot gluing all of these pieces in place, and I'm trying to just lift them up and stick the glue underneath so that I don't mess up the placement, because I already messed it up once. And I really liked the way that it looked, so I was sad. But that's what always happens with stuff like this, right? So just hot gluing all those pieces down, and I'm trying to get an interesting variety of the leaves. So some of them have that gold stripy color on them, which I really like on the leaves, and some of them are plain. So I'm just kind of mixing them up so that there's an interesting variety. And I'm pulling off some of the strings. I just started using hot glue again, and I just can't get used to the strings. So here I'm pulling out some floral pieces from that chipboard sheet, and I'm sorry I never showed it to you. I might pull it out again. I think I will. And I'm just going to include those in here with my leaves, just so that I can get an interesting look and mixture here. So I'm using that word lovely for the main bulk of my title, and that's from the same chipboard sheet. And then I used these stickers. These are an alphabet sticker from the Maggie Holmes confetti sticker sheet to spell it was. And then those hearts came, there's that chipboard sheet. Those hearts came from the chipboard sheet. Here's that Maggie Holmes confetti sticker sheet. I was thinking I needed something at the top. Looking at it now, I think it could have been fine without, but I do end up adding something. I did add a little sticker that says "A Beautiful Day" from the Dear Lizzie. I can't remember what her most recent collection is called, but I added that below the photo. And I'm using my Muji pen to write some journaling just on that white line there. And I'm just writing about how the amount of support was just great and overwhelming at my uncle's funeral, and there were a bunch of people out there showing how much they loved him, and his kids spoke at the funeral, and they just amazed me. And so even though, you know, we were sad, funerals suck, that it was still a beautiful day to reflect on his life. So I did not show you the part where I mounted the photo. So I put a messy mat. I used the same paper. I used it. I matted the photo 3 different times with the same paper, and it is from the My Mind's Eye. I think it's from My Mind's Eye on Trend. I'll be sure to link to it as well. And I used my Chamel roller date stamp to stamp the date there. And I'm looking for a little piece of something to put at the top. So I thought to tie in that gold that I would put a strip of wood grain at the top, because it's kind of that brownish color, and I just liked the way that it looked. So I will end up putting that small strip of wood grain paper at the top, and then I'm going to find a little bit of gold to bring to the top as well, and I find it in some washi tape. So I'm just ripping that tape while it's still on the roll, and I'm going to make that end look not quite so squared off, and then I will glue that to the top. I'm going to add another little tiny piece of the tape after I add some Heidi Swap Gold Color Shine, and I will add just a little bit more of that tape to the bottom right hand side of the photo. So I think I'm just grabbing that tape now. There it is. I'm going to fiddle with it a bit before I figure out how to finagle it in there. And that's pretty much going to complete the layout. Be sure to check out Juliet's channel, which I'll link below, as well as Irit's channel, which I will also link. If you have any questions, just leave me a comment. And if you'd like to see these still photos closer up, check out my blog at www.craftygenscow.com, where you can see more information as well as those photos and links to all of the products I used. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.